welcome to our presentation on multi-generational communication in Info 286, Section 10, with Professor Sue Allman, and presented by group members Rachel Bailey, Melissa Horton, Christopher Lee, Suzanne McGuire, and Sue Yang Peace.
A generation is defined by demographics and key life events that tend to shape distinctive generational characteristics. The following are some of the generations in our current workplace. Traditionalists born between 1928 and 1945. This generation had significant opportunities in jobs and education as the war ended and a post-war economic boom struck America. The baby boomers born between 1946 and 1965 is the largest generation encompassing a 20-year span. Generation X, born between 1966 and 1976, sometimes referred to as the lost generation. This was the first generation of latchkey kids exposed to a lot of daycare and divorce. Millennials, born between 1977 and 1994, is the largest cohort since the baby boomers, and their high numbers reflect their births as that of their parent generation. Generation Z, born between 1995 and 2012. We don't know much yet about Generation Z, but we do know they are growing up with a lot of technology. Intergenerational communication amongst people from different age groups, often cause a lot of miscommunication. The older generation grew up with different vernaculars than the younger generations, and they all have different morals and value codes depending on when they were born. Historical events and changes to the values and morals of the populations causes different ideas to be born or to disappear from the landscape in which people grew up. Thus, the language and methods of communication changes. This causes communication problems between the different generations.
Some of the key issues in communication between generations stems from different generations' overall communication preferences. According to Camille Kapoor and Nicole Solomon at the University of Houston, as a general rule, traditionalists and baby boomers prefer to communicate face-to-face or over the phone. On the other side of the coin is Generation X and Millennials. These two generations tend to prefer email and text messaging in workplace communication. The differences in communication styles can lead to conflict between generations and make it difficult for the multiple generations to work together as a team. Not all multi-generational conflict at the workplace comes from the different communication preferences of traditionalists, baby boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials. According to Kapoor and Solomon, many conflicts arise from how the different generations view each other. Traditionalists and baby boomers often take pride in their work ethic and sometimes see younger generations as lazy slackers who are too inexperienced for leadership roles and too focused on new technology. Generation X, however, sees the traditionalists and baby boomers as outdated and stuck in the past. Other generations also see this generation as too cynical. Millennials are seen as the poster child of reliance on technology. Older generations also see millennials as overly idealistic and way too optimistic, almost naive. Oddly enough, Kapoor and Solomon wrote that millennials value tradition more than Generation X.
Awareness of divergent viewpoints. Viewpoints are often shaped by the era or generation a person grew up in. These divergent viewpoints are apparent in a multi-generational workplace. According to Dana Brownlee, president of a corporate training firm, quote, older workers may think the younger group is needy or high maintenance, and younger workers may feel in the dark or unappreciated, end quote. Traditionalist values were shaped by World War II. Many grew up in a time when supplies were scarce. As a result, they are big savers and tend to stay at one company for a long time. They are loyal to their jobs just like they are loyal to their company. Their sense of duty, honor, dedication, and sacrifice is evident in the workplace. They are more formal than younger generations. The work hierarchy is important to them. They are slow to change work habits and are particularly resistant to technology. Baby boomers are the children of World War II veterans. They are defined by their work and are found in many leadership positions. Human contact, especially face-to-face interaction, is important to them. Some are members of the sandwich generation, where they are taking care of teenagers as well as aging parents. Because of this, health and wellness, as well as good retirement plans, are important to them. Generation Xers grew up in a time when the divorce rate was high and single parents became more common. Kids had to fend for themselves while parents worked. Furthermore, they gained a sense of independence at an early age. Consequently, many from this group are wary of professional and personal commitments. As adults, they are successful but switch jobs a lot. They are not job loyal. They need flexible, interesting work. It is no surprise, then, that members of Gen X introduced casual work attire, paternity leave, and flex time. Millennials grew up in the time of video games and the internet. They are the first generation to grow up with minivans, car seats, and stringent child protection laws. Many grew up in a sheltered existence, but are team-oriented, competent, and great at multitasking. They prefer to work in a technologically rich environment and are known to have short attention spans. The group thrives on positive reinforcement and gravitates towards fun, interesting jobs. They want people to listen to them and consider their perspective. Millennials are the first generation that truly embraces differences and welcomes all ages. They want to make a difference more than they want to make a lot of money. And finally, Generation Zers never knew a time before social media. Technology is and always has been a large part of their lives. Members of this generation are highly educated. Experts predict that Gen Zers will earn more college and graduate degrees than any other generation. Zers want to make a difference and are particularly interested in environmental issues. Time will only tell the impact of this generation.
Working alongside coworkers of varying ages can sometimes be a challenge, but it can really be a benefit for a workplace. Nurturing healthy and professional, multi-generational communication within an organization can originate with recruiting and hiring practices by modeling open-mindedness. Instead of focusing primarily on age, especially regarding educational and work history requirements, job listings can stress the importance of finding candidates with characteristics that are conducive to maturity, cooperation, and working within a team of mixed-age employees. When a diverse staff is in place, management can set some ground rules about establishing a positive, respectful environment through varied modes of written as well as spoken communication. This variety in delivery will help in reaching coworkers with different communication preferences. For example, when sharing ideas through a presentation, one can add audio or video. One can provide visual components, but it's also important to provide the same information in print for those who prefer that mode. By sharing information in a variety of formats, it helps coworkers of different ages and generations process information using their preference. However, it isn't enough to accommodate a multi-generational staff's communication needs. One must also encourage coworkers to learn from one another. One effective way to capitalize on the diversity of employees is by creating teams that make use of older employees' institutional knowledge and traditional skills, and grouping them with the energy and technological savvy that younger generations, such as millennial age employees, may bring to the table. There should be a variety of opportunities for coworkers to apply their unique skills, to sort of highlight their strengths, and to learn from one another's unique viewpoints and approaches to solving problems. A workplace should really take advantage of a staff's differences because it helps set a tone of inclusivity and teamwork, and it also ensures coworkers are communicating effectively in a dynamic and productive way. Most importantly, all employees should be open to learning about their coworkers' communication preferences, which can include both verbal and nonverbal cues, and to discovering their personalities. The attitude that it's someone else's problem, not mine, and they should be the one to change, not me, are the biggest detriments to establishing cohesion in a multi-generational workforce. A staff should be encouraged to appreciate differences in communication, and workers should get as much exposure to both traditional and innovative modes of delivery and correspondence. This can occur through direct training on communication styles by covering this topic through a professional development meeting or a training, or through more informal opportunities, such as making sure there's always variety when exchanging information, or by taking part in collaborative work. Establishing a baseline of respect, talking and demystifying the unknown, and learning from each other will be the most effective strategies in accommodating workers from different generations and setting up a supportive and productive work environment.
The ways that people communicate is as different as a person's fingerprints. Each has the same characteristics, such as verbal cues, nonverbal cues, personality types, and gender. But when a person communicates, each of these characteristics get jumbled together in a unique way. This creates many avenues for miscommunication to exist, and thus the purpose of communication often gets lost and misunderstood. By recognizing these different characteristics of communication, and by resolving oneself to having an open mind, the pitfalls of miscommunication can hopefully be reduced or even avoided altogether. You can follow our links below for our voice thread discussion, where Suzanne has some interesting discussion questions regarding multi-generational communication. Our Pinterest board will have our sources for all of our group presentation. And lastly, the Padlet link, where Melissa has provided a place where you can post your own flashes of insight after viewing our presentation and reading our discussion questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to view our presentation on multi-generational communication. We hope you walk away with some valuable new insight.